Marcus Hayes was laughing heartily in the elevator. People like you should know their place. Anne, the janitor, lowered her eyes, tears welling. But when she lifted her sleeve, revealing a small tattoo, his smile froze forever. Before we dive into today's story, tell me where you're tuning in from, grab a coffee or get comfy on the couch, and please don't forget to support us. Just hit that like button and I'll know you enjoy this kind of tale. Ready? Let's begin. The day started like any other for Anne. At 5 in the morning, she kissed the forehead of her daughter Sophia, who was still fast asleep, and quietly left their small suburban apartment. The bus was packed with workers like her, people who kept the city running while the world was still dreaming. At the Hayes and Associates corporate tower, she greeted her supervisor with a discreet smile and put on the blue uniform that made her practically invisible to the executives. It had been like this for 3 years. 3 years of cleaning the same offices, emptying the same trash cans, listening to the same conversations about multi-million-dollar deals, while mentally calculating if her monthly paycheck would cover Sophia's school supplies. "Good morning, Anne," said Pete, the building's security guard, the only one who always greeted her by name. "How's little Sophia doing? Growing up too fast?" Anne smiled, adjusting her cleaning cart. "Yesterday she said she wants to be an astronaut. Today she's already changed her mind to a veterinarian." Pete chuckled. "Kids are like that. My granddaughter changes her mind about her profession every week too." Anne began her routine on the 20th floor, the highest in the building, where the executive offices were located. It was her favorite job, and yet the most challenging. Favorite because the windows offered a breathtaking view of the city she rarely had a chance to contemplate. Challenging because it was where the people who ignored her the most worked. While cleaning the conference room, Anne overheard 2 executive assistants chatting about their spa weekends and overseas trips. She didn't feel envy. She just felt a pang of sadness, thinking that Sophia had never even seen the ocean, which was only 2 hours from the city. "Mom, why do you work at night too?" Sophia had asked the previous week, finding Anne sewing clothes for clients late into the evening. "So, you can have everything you deserve, my love," Anne had replied, kissing her daughter's curly hair. "One day you'll understand." What Sophia didn't know was that Anne worked 3 jobs. Janitor by day, seamstress by night, and a weekend market vendor. Every dollar saved was for her daughter's future. The private school where she studied on a partial scholarship, the books, the clothes, the dreams Anne was determined to make come true. Mid-morning, while cleaning the 20th floor hallway, Anne heard hurried footsteps and raised voices coming from the CEO's office. Marcus Hayes was clearly irritated about something. She had heard of him, of course, the city's wealthiest man, heir to an empire built by his father, known for his business acumen and his explosive temper. "Where are the Chicago reports?" His voice echoed down the hallway. "This meeting is critical. We can't afford any mistakes." Anne continued her work in silence, as she always did. She had learned early on that for people like her, invisibility was almost a protection. Don't bother, don't interfere, don't draw attention, just do your job and go home to her daughter. But sometimes, life has other plans. As she stepped into the elevator to go down to the 15th floor, she didn't realize Marcus Hayes had entered right behind her, speaking nervously on his phone. He was clearly agitated, gesticulating as he talked about contracts and impossible deadlines. "No, no, and no. We need to close this deal today. Do you hear me? Today," he yelled into the phone, filling the entire elevator with his imposing presence. Anne cowered in her corner, trying to become even more invisible, clutching her cleaning cart tightly. She had learned that when powerful people were upset, it was best to disappear completely. The elevator ascended slowly, and Anne mentally counted the floors, eager to escape that cramped space where the tension was almost palpable. 16th floor, 17th, 18th. That's when something happened that would change everything forever. The elevator abruptly stopped between the 18th and 19th floors. The lights flickered once before stabilizing, but the silence that followed was deafening. Marcus Hayes stared at the panel in disbelief. "This can't be happening," he muttered, pressing all the buttons on the panel. "Not today, not now." Anne remained silent in her corner, discreetly observing as he tried to get the elevator working. For the first time, she saw him up close. He was younger than she had imagined, perhaps 35, with neatly cut dark hair and a suit that probably cost more than she earned in 6 months. "Hello, hello?" Marcus yelled into the elevator's emergency phone. "Is anyone there? I'm stuck in this elevator, and I have a meeting in 15 minutes that's worth $50 million. Anne could see the desperation growing in his eyes. His hands trembled slightly as he tried to call someone on his cell phone, but the signal was weak inside the elevator. "Damn it!" he exploded, punching the elevator wall. $50 million! Do you hear that? $50 million depends on this meeting. Anne took a step back, startled by the outburst of anger. She had witnessed moments like this before. When powerful people lost control, someone like her usually ended up paying the price. "Excuse me?" she whispered softly. "But maybe if you press the emergency button more calmly." Marcus turned to her, his eyes blazing with irritation. It was as if, for the first time, he had truly seen her there. "More calmly?" he repeated, his voice rising in volume. "Do you have any idea what's at stake here? Of course you don't. People like you don't understand what real responsibility means." The words hit Anne like a slap. She lowered her eyes, feeling her cheeks burn with shame. "I was just trying to help," she murmured. "Help?" Marcus laughed sardonically. "You want to help? Then stay quiet in your corner and let me handle this. Besides, what are you doing up here? Shouldn't the cleaning staff be on the lower floors at this hour?" I was cleaning the conference room," Anne explained, her voice trembling. "It's part of my job." "Your job," he repeated, as if the word itself were dirty. "And what exactly is your job, besides getting in the way of important people at critical moments?" Anne felt tears prick her eyes, but she refused to cry in front of him. She thought of Sophia, of all the sacrifices she made, of all the sleepless nights sewing to give her daughter a better future. "I clean the offices, sir," she said, her voice as firm as she could manage. "And I work very hard to support my family." "Oh, how touching," Marcus said with disdain. "Everyone has a sad story to tell, don't they? But that doesn't change the fact that I have an empire to run, and you, well, you clean up messes." The emergency phone finally connected, and Marcus lunged toward the receiver like a drowning man finding a life raft. "Finally, listen closely. I'm Marcus Hayes, the owner of this building, and I'm stuck in the main elevator. I want a maintenance crew here in 2 minutes. Do you hear me? 2 minutes!" As he shouted instructions into the phone, Anne sank further into her corner, feeling smaller than ever. But there was something Marcus didn't know, something she herself hadn't thought about in a long time. Instinctively, her right hand went to her left wrist, lightly touching a small mark always hidden beneath her uniform sleeve. It was a small, delicate tattoo, a symbol she'd gotten at 18 when her life was completely different. When she was completely different. "The team is on their way," Marcus announced, hanging up the phone. "In 5 minutes I'll be out of here, and forget this pathetic conversation ever happened." Anne nodded silently, but her tears began to fall despite her efforts to hold them back. "Crying now?" Marcus turned to Anne with an expression of incredulity mixed with irritation. "Seriously, I'm the one who should be crying. I just lost the most important meeting of the year because of a broken elevator." Anne quickly wiped away her tears with the back of her hand, trying to compose herself. "I'm sorry, sir. It wasn't my intention." "It wasn't your intention what? To exist?" Marcus gave a cruel laugh. Look, I understand you have your problems, everyone does. But the world doesn't stop turning because of your tears. Some people are born to lead, others to follow. People like you should know their place. Marcus's words echoed through the small elevator space like bullets. Anne closed her eyes for a moment, feeling a mixture of humiliation and something deeper, a pain that came from a long time ago. You know what the problem with people like you is, Marcus continued, clearly venting his frustration. You always think the world owes you something, always waiting for someone to come and solve your problems. I never expected anything from anyone, Anne said softly, her voice barely a whisper. I work 16 hours a day to give my daughter the best. Your daughter? Marcus laughed again. Let me guess. Absent father, overdue bills, frustrated dreams, the usual story. Anne felt something break inside her. It wasn't just the humiliation of the moment, but all the humiliations accumulated over the years, all the looks of disdain, all the times she was treated as if she were invisible, as if she didn't deserve basic respect. You don't know me, she said, her voice gaining a strength that surprised even herself. You know nothing about me or my life. I know enough, Marcus retorted. I see dozens like you every day. No ambition, no vision, nothing to offer but complaints about how unfair life is. Anne looked up, and for the first time, looked directly at Marcus. There was something different in her gaze now. No longer the frightened submission from before, but a dignity that seemed to come from a deep place within her. Life is unfair, she said calmly, but that doesn't mean we should treat people like trash. Trash! Marcus turned red with anger. I don't treat anyone like trash. I treat people as they deserve to be treated, and you, well, you're just another cleaning lady on just another ordinary day of my life. At that moment, something shifted in the elevator's atmosphere. Anne, who had spent years hiding, diminishing herself, pretending she didn't exist, suddenly couldn't bear it anymore. Her right hand automatically moved to her left wrist, touching the tattoo hidden beneath her sleeve. Just another cleaning lady, she repeated, as if testing the weight of the words. Is that how you see people? As disposable objects? I see people as they are, Marcus replied coldly, and you are someone who cleans what others build. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's nothing special about it either. Anne took a deep breath. For the first time in 3 years, she allowed herself to remember who she used to be before life forced her to hide, to become invisible, to survive in silence. You're right about one thing, she said, her voice gaining crystal clarity. I clean what others build, but you have no idea what I've already built and what I've lost. Marcus was about to retort when they heard voices outside and the clatter of tools. The maintenance crew had arrived. Finally, he muttered, straightening his tie. Now I can get out of this nightmare and forget this conversation ever happened. But Anne knew this conversation would change everything, and very soon, Marcus would discover that some people carry secrets that can transform worlds. The elevator doors opened with a metallic creak, and Marcus stepped out immediately, completely ignoring Anne as she collected her cleaning cart. He was already on the phone before he even set foot in the hallway. Robert? Yes, I just got out. Reschedule everything for this afternoon, and I want a full report on this building's maintenance on my desk in an hour. Anne exited the elevator in silence, watching him stride away with long, determined steps. To him, she had already ceased to exist again. She was just another forgettable inconvenience in his hectic morning. But for Anne, something had irreversibly changed. She finished her shift on autopilot, cleaning rooms and hallways, while her mind processed every word of that conversation. People like you should know their place. The words echoed in her head like a cruel mantra. When she arrived home that afternoon, Sophia was doing homework at the kitchen table, surrounded by books and colored pencils. The girl looked up and immediately noticed something was wrong. "Mum, are you okay?" she asked, putting her pencil down. Anne forced a smile and kissed the top of her daughter's head. "I am, my love. How was school today?" "Good. Ms. Miller said my essay on my hero was the best in the class." Sophia beamed with pride. "I wrote about you, Mom, about how you're the smartest and bravest woman I know." Anne felt a lump in her throat. "About me?" "Yes, I wrote that my mom is a superhero in disguise, that she works hard to take care of me, and that one day everyone will recognize how special she is." The tears Anne had held back all day finally began to fall. She sat next to her daughter and pulled her into a tight hug. "Why are you crying, Mom?" Sophia asked, concerned. "They're tears of joy, dear. You reminded me of something very important today." That night, after Sophia was asleep, Anne sat on the balcony of their small apartment and looked out at the illuminated city below. She could see the building where she worked in the distance, its windows gleaming against the dark sky. She lifted her left sleeve and looked at the small tattoo on her wrist. It was a simple symbol, almost too discreet to be noticed, but it carried a meaning she had buried deep in her past. Two intertwined letters, A and H, Anne Hayes. 15 years ago, she wasn't just Anne the janitor. She was Anne Hayes, heiress to one of the city's most prominent families, a business administration graduate from the country's top university with a brilliant future ahead of her. 15 years ago, she was engaged to a promising young businessman, living in a luxurious penthouse, frequenting the most exclusive social circles of the elite, until everything fell apart. Her father's sudden death in an accident, the debts discovered after the funeral, the family business bankrupt, the fiancé who vanished when the money ran out. In a matter of months, Anne lost everything: fortune, social standing, identity. And then she discovered she was pregnant with Sophia. Alone, penniless, and with a child on the way, she did the only thing she knew how to do: survive. She moved to another neighborhood, took on jobs no one from her old life would imagine her capable of doing, and rebuilt her existence brick by brick. For 15 years, she lived as a completely different person. Anne Hayes died that tragic day, and Anne Miller was born, the woman who did the impossible to give her daughter dignity. But today, in the elevator, something had awakened within her. The humiliation, the arrogance, the contempt, all of it brought back not just the pain, but also the strength she thought she had lost forever. "People like you should know their place," she murmured into the night, touching the tattoo again. "Maybe it's time to show what my place truly is." The next morning, Anne woke with a determination she hadn't felt in 15 years. It was time to stop hiding. Anne arrived at work the next morning with a slightly different demeanor. It wasn't arrogance, but a renewed dignity that radiated from her every move. Pete, the security guard, noticed immediately. "Good morning, Anne. You look different today. Did something good happen?" Anne smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her face. "Let's just say I remembered who I am, Pete." As she prepared her cleaning cart, Anne observed the building's activity with different eyes, no longer with the resignation of someone who accepts being invisible, but with the keen perception of someone who intimately knows that world. She knew Marcus had important meetings on Wednesday mornings. She knew because, for 3 years, she had cleaned his office and unconsciously absorbed fragments of conversations, business details, patterns of behavior. What Marcus didn't imagine was that the simple janitor perfectly understood what he was talking about when he discussed mergers, acquisitions, and market strategies. Around 10 in the morning, Anne was cleaning the 20th floor hallway when she heard agitated voices coming from Marcus's office. The door was ajar, and she could see through the glass that he was on a tense video call with several executives. "The numbers aren't adding up, Marcus," a male voice said through the computer. "The Silver Construction Company is asking for terms we simply cannot accept." "Then find an alternative." Marcus pounded his fist on the table. "We lost the deal with JK Developments yesterday because of the elevator delay, and now you're telling me you can't close with Silver?" Anne stopped cleaning and paid attention. JK Developments. She knew that company well. She had worked directly with them 15 years ago when she was still Anne Hayes. She knew exactly what their weaknesses and needs were. "The problem is they want regional exclusivity for 5 years," another executive on the call continued, "and we don't have the infrastructure to guarantee that." "Infrastructure?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "We're the biggest construction company in the state. What infrastructure are we lacking?" Anne listened to the entire conversation while pretending to organize her cart. Marcus's executives were making basic negotiation mistakes she could resolve in 5 minutes if she knew how to approach the situation. When the video call ended, Anne heard Marcus punch the table and let out a string of curses. The office door burst open and he stormed out, almost tripping over her cart. "You again?" he said, clearly irritated. "It seems like you're always in my way lately." Anne looked at him calmly. "Excuse me, Mr. Hayes, I was just finishing up here." "Well, finish faster next time. I have more important things to worry about than tripping over cleaning equipment." He started to walk away, but Anne did something she had never done before. She spoke. "Mr. Hayes." Marcus stopped and turned, surprised. "What?" Anne took a deep breath. "It was now or never. I couldn't help but overhear your conversation about JK Developments. If you'll allow me, I have a suggestion." Marcus stared at her as if she had grown a second head. "A suggestion? About business, you?" "Yes," Anne said firmly. "I know it might sound strange, but I understand a bit about the real estate market." Marcus let out a laugh that echoed down the empty hallway. "You understand real estate. The janitor understands real estate. That's priceless. JK doesn't just want regional exclusivity," Anne continued, ignoring the sarcasm. "They want supply security because they're expanding inland. If you offered a consortium with 2 smaller regional companies instead of total exclusivity, they would accept immediately." Marcus's mocking smile gradually faded. Where did you get that information?" "Experience," Anne replied simply. "Sometimes those on the outside see things that those on the inside can't." Marcus was silent for a moment, studying her face with a completely different expression. "Are you sure about this?" Anne nodded. "Absolutely." Marcus continued to stare at Anne with a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. For the first time since he had known her, he was truly seeing her. "All right," he said slowly. "Let's say I believe you know something about business. How exactly does a janitor acquire knowledge about real estate market strategies?" Anne hesitated for a moment. She wasn't ready to reveal the whole truth, but she also couldn't pretend any longer that she was just a simple, uneducated woman. "I read a lot," she said calmly. "And I observe. For 3 years, I've cleaned offices where important deals happen. It's impossible not to learn something." "Read?" Marcus chuckled, but this time without the cruel tone from before. It was more surprise than mockery. "And where exactly do you read about negotiation strategies?" "The public library, the internet, newspapers people throw away." Anne kept her voice firm. "Knowledge doesn't cost money, Mr. Hayes. It only costs time and interest." Marcus shook his head, still processing the situation. "That's unexpected. But even if you've read about the subject, how can you be sure about JK specifically?" Anne took a deep breath. It was time to reveal at least part of her hand. "Because I've worked with them before." "Worked?" Marcus frowned. "When? Where?" "A few years ago, at another company, in a different role." Anne chose her words carefully. I know how they think, what they value, how they make decisions. Marcus was silent for several seconds, clearly trying to fit the puzzle pieces together. Anne could see the gears of his mind working. What kind of role? Administrative, she replied, technically not lying. All right, Marcus said finally. Let's assume you're right about JK. How would I know your suggestion would work? Anne looked directly into his eyes. Call them, now. Talk about the regional consortium. Specifically mention Roberts Construction and Parker and Sons. Tell them you can guarantee 70% of the materials through the main partnership and 30% through regional subsidiaries. The precision and specificity of the information left Marcus visibly shocked. How do you know about Roberts Construction and Parker and Sons? Because they are the only two companies in the region that have production capacity compatible with what JK needs for their inland projects, Anne explained with the naturalness of someone who had always known this information. And because both have been looking for larger partnerships since they lost contracts with the city council last year. Marcus was dumbfounded. This information was extremely specific and current. It wasn't something one would learn just by reading newspapers at the library. Who are you, really? He asked, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. Anne felt her heart race. She was getting too close to the truth, and she wasn't ready to reveal everything yet. I'm someone who wants to see you succeed in this business, she said calmly, and someone who knows you can do better than to humiliate people just because you're frustrated. The reference to the elevator incident made Marcus lower his eyes for a moment. When he looked at Anne again, there was something different in his expression, perhaps the beginning of respect, or at least recognition. If I make this call, he said slowly, and if your suggestion works, I'm going to want answers. Real answers about who you are. Anne nodded. And if it doesn't work? Marcus almost smiled. If it doesn't work, I'll assume this was the strangest conversation of my life, and we'll pretend it never happened. Fair enough, Anne agreed, but it will work. How can you be so sure? Anne discreetly touched the tattoo hidden beneath her sleeve. Because some things you never forget, even when you'd rather. Marcus looked at her for another long moment, then turned and went back into his office. Anne, he called before closing the door. Yes? Stay close. I have a feeling this conversation isn't over yet. Anne spent the next hour pretending to clean the hallway, but actually watching Marcus's office through the glass. She could see him on the phone, gesticulating animatedly, taking notes. His body language changed by the minute. First tense, then surprised, finally relieved. When he finally emerged from his office, the smile on his face said it all. How did you know? Was the first thing he said, approaching her with an expression of pure disbelief. JK accepted the proposal right away. Right away. They said it was exactly what they were looking for. Anne couldn't hide a small smile of satisfaction. I told you it would work. Work? Marcus chuckled, but now it was a laugh of genuine admiration. Anne, it didn't just work. It was perfect. They even asked if we knew Roberts and Parker personally, because apparently they're exactly the partners they wanted for their inland projects. Anne nodded calmly, as if she had always known it would be this way. They closed the contract. $45 million, Anne. $45 million I was about to lose. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. And you, a janitor, saved the biggest deal of the quarter. I'm not just a janitor, Anne said softly. I'm a person, with experiences, knowledge, stories, like everyone else who works in this building. The observation made Marcus pause. For the first time, he truly reflected on his words from the previous day. You're right, he admitted, and I owe you an apology. What I said yesterday was inexcusable. Anne studied him for a moment. Why are you apologizing now? Because you discovered I can be useful? The question hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. That's not... It is exactly that, Anne gently interrupted. Yesterday I was people like you who should know their place. Today, because I helped your business, suddenly I deserve respect. Marcus flushed, clearly uncomfortable. That's not exactly it. No? Anne tilted her head. Then tell me, how many people in this building do you treat the same way you treated me yesterday? Marcus opened his mouth to reply, then closed it. The truth was too uncomfortable to utter. Pete, the security guard, knows his granddaughter's name, Anne continued. Sabrina at the front desk is saving up for her wedding. John from the coffee shop sends money home to his mother in the South every 2 weeks. Marcia from the third-floor cleaning crew is studying accounting at night. With each name mentioned, Marcus felt smaller. He had worked in the same building as these people for years and knew nothing about their lives. How do you know all this? He asked softly. Because I talk to them. Because I see them as human beings, not as furniture. Anne paused. We all have stories, Mr. Hayes. Dreams, fears, hidden talents. The difference is that some people are lucky enough to showcase their talents in boardrooms, while others have to hide them behind a cleaning uniform. Marcus was silent for a long moment, processing her words. You still haven't told me who you really are, he said finally. Anne took a deep breath. She knew the time had come to start revealing the truth, even if little by little. I'm someone who once had a very different life, she said. Someone who lost everything and had to rebuild from scratch. Someone who learned that a person's worth isn't measured by their position, but by the character they demonstrate. And your business knowledge? That's not learned just by observing. Anne looked out the window, seeing the city stretch to the horizon. No, it's not learned. It's lived. It's inherited. It's lost. She turned to him. Have you ever heard of Hayes Construction? Marcus frowned. The company that went bankrupt about 15 years ago? Of course, it was one of the biggest in the city at the time. The owner died in an accident, his daughter disappeared, and the company went bankrupt. Why? Anne discreetly touched the tattoo on her wrist, feeling the weight of 15 years of secrets. Because that daughter who disappeared never really disappeared. She just learned to be invisible. Marcus's world stopped. He looked at Anne as if seeing her for the first time, truly seeing her. The features of her face, her intelligent eyes, the posture that now that he paid attention had a natural elegance no janitor's uniform could completely hide. He began, but the words refused to come out. Anne slowly lifted her left sleeve, revealing the small tattoo she had hidden for so many years. The intertwined letters A and H were simple, but to anyone who knew the city's history, they were unmistakable. Anne Hayes, she said calmly. Daughter of Robert Hayes, heiress of Hayes Construction. Or at least, that's what I used to be. Marcus leaned against the wall, clearly shocked. But how? Why? You were dead. Everyone said you had disappeared after the funeral. I disappeared, Anne confirmed, because when you lose everything, money, company, social standing, I discovered you also lose people. My fiancé vanished when he learned about the debts. My friends stopped answering my calls. High society treated me as if I were contagious. Marcus shook his head slowly. I vaguely remember. There were rumors about hidden debts, mismanagement. There was no mismanagement, Anne said firmly. My father was a man of integrity, but he trusted the wrong people, co-signed for deals that went south, made loans to help friends who never paid him back. When he died, we discovered he had mortgaged everything, the company, our home, even my mother's jewelry. Your mother? She died of a broken heart 6 months after Dad. Literally. Anne wiped away a discreet tear. I was left alone, pregnant, and without a dollar in my pocket. Pregnant, Marcus whispered, with Sophia, the daughter you never asked about. But who is the reason I do everything I do? Anne's voice gained strength. When I found out I was expecting a baby, I had two options: surrender to despair or fight. I chose to fight. Marcus was silent, trying to process the magnitude of the revelation. Why did you never say anything? Why hide all these years? Anne laughed bitterly. And say what? To whom? Hi, I'm Anne Hayes, whom you all thought was dead, and now I clean bathrooms. Do you think anyone would believe me? Or worse, do you think they would treat me with dignity after finding out that the princess of the elite became a single mother from the wrong side of the tracks? The question hit Marcus hard. He knew exactly how the business world treated people who fell from their position. Besides, Anne continued, I learned something important in these 15 years. I learned that my worth as a person didn't depend on the last name I carried or the money I had in the bank. I learned that dignity isn't something someone can take from you. It's something you carry within yourself. But you could have rebuilt, Marcus argued, with your knowledge, your education. Could I? Anne looked at him intensely. Marcus, you humiliated me yesterday because you thought I was just a janitor. How do you think the business world would treat me if they knew I was the daughter of the incompetent Robert Hayes, who destroyed one of the biggest companies in the city? Marcus lowered his eyes, ashamed. She was right. The corporate world could be cruel and unforgiving to those who failed. So you built a new identity. I didn't build one, Anne corrected. I discovered who I truly am beneath all the titles and properties. I discovered I am a strong woman, capable of working 16 hours a day to support my daughter. I discovered I can be happy with little, as long as that little is earned with honesty. Marcus looked at her with growing admiration. And Sophia, does she know? Sophia knows her mother is a warrior who would do anything for her. She knows we are a strong and united family. The rest, she'll know when the time is right. Anne, Marcus began, but she interrupted him. Now that you know who I am, she said, the question is, what are you going to do with this information? Marcus was silent, knowing that his answer would not only define her future, but also reveal who he truly was. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, clearly grappling with his own emotions. For several minutes, he just looked at Anne in silence, as if seeing a ghost that had materialized before him. What am I going to do? He repeated slowly. Anne, you saved my biggest deal of the quarter. You gave me a lesson in humility that I desperately needed, and now I discover that the simple janitor you humiliated was actually someone who probably understood more about your business than half your executives. Anne finished the sentence with a sad smile. That's not it, Marcus said quickly. It's just, God, Anne, I'm an idiot, a complete idiot. Anne watched him with curiosity. There was something different in his voice now, not just regret, but a vulnerability she hadn't expected to see. Why do you say that? Marcus took a deep breath before answering. Because I've become exactly the kind of person my father despised. He always told me that a man's character is measured by how he treats those who can do nothing for him. And I failed that test completely. Anne was surprised by the brutal honesty of the confession. Your father sounds like a wise man. He was. And if he were alive to see how I treat people. Marcus shook his head. He'd be ashamed to call me his son. Anne studied his face, seeing for the first time the person behind the facade of a successful businessman. It's never too late to change, Marcus. It isn't? He asked with genuine hope in his voice. Because honestly, I don't even know where to start. You're right about everything. I treat people like furniture, I know nothing about my employees' lives, and on top of that, I'm arrogant enough to think that's okay. Anne was silent for a moment, observing the transformation happening before her. "May I ask you a question?" she said finally. "Of course." "Why are you being so honest with me now? You could just pretend none of this happened." Marcus gave a humorless laugh. "Because for the first time in years, someone showed me who I'd really become, and I didn't like what I saw at all." He paused. "Besides, you could have humiliated me right now. You could have dramatically revealed your identity, shaming me in front of the employees. But you didn't. Why?" "Because humiliating others builds nothing," Anne replied simply. "It only destroys, and I'm tired of seeing things destroyed." Marcus nodded slowly. "What can I do to make amends? And don't tell me you don't need anything, because I know you do. Everyone does." Anne hesitated. There was something she truly needed, but asking for help was still too difficult. Actually, there is one thing. Anything. Sophia wants to study medicine. She's brilliant, Marcus, truly brilliant. But even with the partial scholarship I managed for her, I don't know if I'll be able to afford college when the time comes. Marcus felt a pang in his chest. How old is she? 8, but it's never too early to start planning. "Anne," Marcus said firmly, "Sophia will study medicine at the best university in the country, and I will personally ensure it, but not out of guilt or pity, because any daughter of yours deserves every opportunity in the world." Anne felt tears prick her eyes. "Marcus, I can't accept charity." "It's not charity," he interrupted. "It's an investment in her future, in your future, and perhaps even in my future as a human being." He paused. "But there's a condition." Anne stiffened. "What?" "That you help me become a better person. That you teach me to treat people with the dignity they deserve. That you help me transform this company into a place where everyone is seen and respected." Anne looked at him with surprise. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. Anne Hayes, I want to offer you a job as my personal consultant for human relations and organizational development." Anne was speechless for several seconds. Processing the unexpected offer, "Marcus, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," he replied immediately. "Anne, you have something that I and my executives have lost along the way. You have humanity. You have the ability to see people as they truly are, not just as numbers or functions. But I no longer have the degree, the certificates, the credentials that the corporate world demands." "Ah, you have 15 years of real-world experience," Marcus interrupted. 15 years of surviving, fighting, growing. That's worth more than any MBA. Anne looked at her own hands, still trembling slightly. "And if I accept, what will people say when they find out who I really am?" "They'll say we were incredibly lucky to find you," Marcus said with conviction. "Anne, half the executives in this city knew your father. They know that Robert Hayes was a man of integrity who was a victim of circumstances. And when they learn that his daughter not only survived but became an extraordinary woman, they will respect her." Anne thought of Sophia, of all the sacrifices she had made, of all the sleepless nights sewing clothes to pay the bills. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. But while you think, I want you to know one thing." Marcus paused. "Yesterday, when I said those terrible things to you, I was talking to one of the strongest and most resilient people I've ever met. The fact that I was too ignorant to see that only proves how much I need to change." Anne felt tears roll down her face, but this time they were tears of relief and hope. "There's one more thing," Marcus continued. "I want to formally apologize to all the employees in the building. I want to start getting to know the people who work with me every day, and I want to do it publicly, so everyone knows I'm changing. Marcus, and I want Sophia to see the building where her mother worked when everything changed for the better. I want her to see that sometimes happy endings begin in the most unlikely places. At that moment, Anne knew something fundamental had changed, not just in her life, but in Marcus's as well. She extended her hand to him. "I accept your offer," she said firmly, "but with one condition." "What?" "That you promise me you will treat every employee in this building, from the security guard to the director, with the same respect you would give me if I were wearing a suit instead of this uniform." Marcus shook her hand. "I promise. And Anne, thank you." "For what?" "For showing me that it's never too late to become the person we were meant to be all along." 3 months later. Anne walked through the corridors of the Hayes & Associates tower wearing an elegant navy blue suit.